These headlines have unfortunately been very common throughout the history of the NBA.
4 years. 4 years is the average lifespan of an NBA career. And it takes us 5 years after that to go broke.
Problem is, many of these players run the risk of going broke, for real, once their playing days are over.
Here are 10 NBA players who lost their fortunes. Wait until you hear the crazy trust Allen Iverson can't touch until he's 55. When we think of NBA stars, we often picture glamorous lifestyles filled with lavish mansions, luxury cars, designer wardrobes, and jet-setting vacations. After all, with multi-million-dollar contracts, shoe endorsements, and countless other ways to make money, it's easy to assume that these athletes can live comfortably forever. However, the reality is that earning a fortune and keeping a fortune are two very different things. Bad investments, gambling addictions, child support obligations, and plain old overspending have led even the biggest names in basketball to financial calamity. In some cases, they end up filing for bankruptcy. In others, they dodge it by the skin of their teeth, juggling lawsuits and creditors for years. But no matter how these sagas unfold, they serve as cautionary tales for anyone earning big bucks in a short period. So let's explore the downfall of 10 NBA players who lost or almost lost their fortunes. You won't believe which Hall of Famer once took a job at Starbucks just to stay afloat. 10. Antoine Walker. Is it surprising that Antoine Walker starts off this list? Maybe not, considering how well-known his story has become. Walker, a three-time All-Star, earned over $110 million playing for teams like the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Miami Heat. Born and raised in Chicago, he quickly rose to NBA stardom in the mid-90s and racked up accolades thanks to his scoring ability and versatility on the court. However, during and after his playing days, Walker developed a taste for the finer things in life. Luxury cars, oversized mansions, designer clothes, and expensive jewelry. To add fuel to the fire, he also got heavily into gambling, and many of his ill-fated bets contributed to his accumulating debt. Real estate investments, which might have seemed like a wise move at the time, turned sour, leaving him on the hook for millions. By 2010, he found himself more than $12 million in debt. To address his staggering financial problems, Walker declared bankruptcy. He then publicly admitted to living beyond his means and to a lack of proper financial planning. In the years since, he has reinvented himself as a cautionary voice for young athletes, sharing his story to emphasize the importance of budgeting and money management. 9. Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell once made headlines for turning down a $21 million contract extension from the Minnesota Timberwolves, famously claiming that it wasn't enough to feed his family. That statement has followed him ever since, representing his taste for a lifestyle that apparently required way more than $21 million to maintain. During his NBA career, Sprewell amassed around $100 million in total earnings, both from lucrative contracts and sneaker deals. He was a key player for the Golden State Warriors, the New York Knicks, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Fans will recall he helped lead the Knicks to an improbable run to the NBA Finals in 1999, proving that his talent was undeniable. Yet off the court, it seemed his financial decisions were just as notorious as his on-court highlights. Reports of mismanagement and overspending emerged, and after he left the league, things took a turn for the worse. Stories of foreclosed homes and unpaid debts started circulating. Though he never formally declared bankruptcy, court documents revealed a dire financial situation. Whether it was failed business ventures or simply an unsustainable lifestyle, Sprewell's story is a reminder that yes, even an 8-figure contract can vanish if you're not careful. 8. Dennis Rodman. Dennis the Worm. Rodman needs no introduction. He's the 5-time NBA champion, best known for his stints with the Bad Boys Detroit Pistons and Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. Off the court, however, Rodman's life was anything but stable. Despite earning an estimated $27 million in contracts and even more through endorsements and appearances, Rodman often flirted with financial disaster. So what caused his money troubles? For starters, his flamboyant lifestyle was legendary. Nightclubs, Vegas parties, and globe-trotting escapades were par for the course. Then there were rumors of questionable choices, such as lavish gifts for friends, excessive jewelry, and private jets he might not have been able to truly afford. When the paychecks stop rolling in, those bills can accumulate very quickly. In the early 2010s, Rodman was in the news for owing significant sums in child and spousal support. Although some outlets may have exaggerated how much he owed, it was clear that he had run into serious financial difficulties. Lawyers took him to court multiple times for overdue support payments. While calling him broke might not paint the full picture, he still had some assets. Rodman's roller coaster ride is a cautionary lesson. No matter how famous you are, if you're not managing your money, it can disappear quickly. 7. Vin Baker. Vin Baker's rise to stardom seemed unstoppable. Drafted 8th overall by the Milwaukee Bucks in 1993, Baker quickly became one of the league's brightest stars. He was a 4-time All-Star, and his well-rounded game earned him respect from both fans and fellow players. Over his 13-year career, he played for several teams, including the Seattle Supersonics and the Boston Celtics, raking in over $100 million. But behind the scenes, Baker struggled with alcoholism, a battle that began during his playing days and intensified as he moved from team to team. Substance abuse not only cost him his health and consistency on the court, but it also hurt his financial life. By the time he left the NBA, Baker had lost the vast majority of his fortune to bad investments, outstanding debts, and personal spending that spiraled out of control. In a surprisingly humble move, Baker famously took a job at Starbucks after his NBA career ended. He worked there, serving coffee and learning the ropes of day-to-day employment. But here's the good news. Baker managed to turn his life around. Today, he's an assistant coach for the Milwaukee Bucks and is involved in various community outreach programs. His journey exemplifies the power of self-reflection, perseverance, and a willingness to start over when life hits rock bottom. 6. Shawn Kemp. Shawn the Rain Man. Kemp was one of the most electrifying athletes the NBA had ever seen in the early to mid-1990s. A 6-time All-Star with the Seattle Supersonics, Kemp formed a dynamic duo with point guard Gary Payton that enthralled basketball fans and helped lead Seattle to the 1996 NBA Finals. Over his career, which also included stints with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Portland Trail Blazers, Kemp earned well over $90 million in salary alone. However, Kemp's financial story took a sour turn once he hung up his sneakers. Multiple reports claimed that he fathered multiple children with different women, which resulted in enormous child support obligations. Combine that with maintaining the high-flying lifestyle of an NBA star, cars, houses, a large entourage, and it's not hard to see how fast the money can evaporate. Though it's unclear if he formally declared bankruptcy, Kemp certainly found himself under immense financial stress. Legal battles over child support and other debts frequently popped up, and rumors swirled that his once vast fortune was nearly depleted. While Kemp remains an iconic figure for his on-court highlights, his post-retirement chapters serve as yet another reminder that money can disappear in a flash if it isn't managed wisely. 5. Derek Coleman. Derek Coleman was once hailed as a can't-miss prospect, even drawing comparisons to some of the greats for his versatility and skill set. Drafted first overall in 1990 by the New Jersey Nets, Coleman showcased the type of scoring, rebounding, and passing ability that justified his lofty draft position. Over his career, which included stops with the Philadelphia 76ers and the Charlotte Hornets, he banked around $91 million in total earnings. But as is the case with many athletes, Coleman ventured into real estate investments, hoping to create long-term wealth and give back to his hometown of Detroit. Unfortunately, the housing crisis of the late 2000s and a series of ill-timed projects left him on the hook for millions. By 2010, Coleman was forced to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, listing extensive debts tied to failed business ventures and commercial properties. Despite these setbacks, Coleman hasn't given up. He's worked to regain his footing and is involved in community-centered initiatives in Detroit, aiming to help revitalize parts of the city. His story illustrates a key lesson for aspiring investors. Just having money doesn't guarantee profitable returns. It requires the right team, economic timing, and a sensible plan, all of which can be tough to manage without proper oversight. 4. Eddie Curry. Eddie Curry's NBA career is a classic tale of potential overshadowed by controversy and misfortune. Drafted straight out of high school by the Chicago Bulls in 2001, Curry was touted as the next great big man. Over the years, he played for the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, and a handful of other teams, earning around $70 million in total salary. However, Curry's financial world was riddled with problems. He took out high-interest loans at exorbitant rates, sometimes just to maintain the lavish lifestyle he thought was expected of an NBA star. He also faced a barrage of lawsuits from creditors and lenders when he either missed payments or defaulted altogether. Injuries and off-court issues only exacerbated the situation, reducing his earning potential and pushing him deeper into debt. Stories circulated about him owing millions, having his home foreclosed, and struggling to keep up with monthly bills. One particularly notorious incident involved him allegedly owing one creditor more than $1 million. Though Curry never became the face of the franchise he was once expected to be, he certainly became a cautionary tale of what can happen when financial obligations pile up and there isn't a solid plan to repay them. 3. Kenny Anderson. Kenny Anderson's basketball journey was filled with promise from a young age. He was a standout at Georgia Tech, then became the second overall pick in the 1991 NBA draft. Over a 14-year career that included stints with the New Jersey Nets, the Boston Celtics, and the Portland Trail Blazers, Anderson earned more than $60 million in salary alone. Yet Anderson himself has admitted that his spending habits were impulsive and often downright reckless. Reports emerged of him splurging on multiple luxury cars at a time, supporting a sizable entourage, and buying lavish homes in various cities. On top of that, Anderson fathered several children with different partners, which meant large monthly child support payments. Add in divorces and subsequent legal battles, and you have a perfect storm for financial chaos. Although Anderson has never outright said he was completely broke, he conceded that his finances were severely depleted by the time he left the league. In later interviews, he's been refreshingly open about his mistakes, taking responsibility for his lack of financial discipline. Today, he's involved in coaching and mentoring young athletes, teaching them not just about basketball, but also about the pitfalls of fast money and unchecked spending. 2. Joe Smith. Joe Smith entered the NBA with high expectations. Drafted first overall by the Golden State Warriors in 1995, he was projected to be the cornerstone of a franchise. While he never quite reached the superstar level some predicted, Smith carved out a lengthy career, playing for 12 different teams, including the Minnesota Timberwolves, Milwaukee Bucks, and Cleveland Cavaliers, and pulled in over $60 million in earnings. Unfortunately, like many athletes, Smith found himself in financial dire straits after retirement. The reasons: part of it was the standard cautionary tale, flashy spending, poor accounting, and trusting the wrong people for investment advice. By the time he left the NBA, there were rumors that a large chunk of his money had vanished into a series of bad deals and questionable partnerships. In recent years, Smith has publicly acknowledged his mistakes. He has spoken about the importance of better financial education for young players coming into the league. He hopes that by sharing his experiences, detailing how trusting the wrong advisors or overspending can quickly eat through millions, he can help incoming athletes avoid the same pitfalls. His story stands as yet another reminder that good money management is crucial, even when you're pulling in millions of dollars over a decade-plus career. 1. Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson may be the most iconic example of an NBA player who seemed to have it all, both on the court and at the bank, only to face serious financial troubles later. Known as The Answer, Iverson left an indelible mark on basketball with his fearless style of play, heart-stopping crossovers, and a cultural impact that redefined the NBA's image in the early 2000s. During his prime, he reportedly earned well over $200 million, combining his NBA contracts with endorsements from companies like Reebok. Yet Iverson's lavish lifestyle was equally legendary. He was known for rolling with a massive entourage, staying in luxury hotels, and dropping tens of thousands of dollars in a single night at nightclubs or casinos. On top of that, he was never shy about purchasing top-tier jewelry and designer clothes. As long as the paychecks kept coming, Iverson's spending habits went unchecked. But once injuries and age started catching up with him, the mammoth contracts eventually disappeared. Then came the lawsuits. Creditors claimed he owed large sums, and there were instances where he reportedly couldn't pay for basic hotel expenses. The internet buzzed with headlines proclaiming Iverson had gone broke. However, there's a twist to Iverson's story. Reebok had set up a trust fund rumored to be worth around $32 million, which Iverson can only access when he turns 55. This means that while the day-to-day spending money dried up, he did have a substantial safety net waiting for him down the road. But that future windfall doesn't entirely negate the financial woes he's faced or the moral of the story. You can earn hundreds of millions of dollars and still end up short if you don't manage it carefully. The stories of these 10 NBA players highlight a simple but powerful truth. No amount of money is guaranteed to last if it isn't handled responsibly. It might be tempting to assume that once you've hit the financial big time, you're automatically set for life. Yet, as we've seen, even athletes who banked tens, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars can lose it all. Overspending, risky investments, gambling, and legal entanglements can derail the most successful careers. Fortunately, many of these players have found ways to rebuild. Some have transitioned into coaching or broadcasting, while others have become advocates for financial literacy, using their cautionary tales to help younger generations avoid making similar mistakes. The lesson for all of us, whether we're earning a modest paycheck or a superstar salary, is simple. Spend wisely, plan for the future, and remember that wealth is something you have to work at maintaining, just like athletic skill.